Good afternoon, everybody. Bobby Cleveland here, Executive Director, Oakland Correctional Professionals, along with Representative J.J. Humphrey. We're going to talk a little bit about DOC today. J.J., let me ask you a question. Which is the most important? Which is the most important division at DOC? What's number one that you got to have?
Well, Bob, the first thing you got to ask, why do you have a DOC? Why do you have a prison? And that's to house prisoners and to keep those prisoners from the public. That's your job. So your number one job duty is going to be security. Now, a lot of people may disagree with me on that, but that's your job. And everything else is to support that job. Naturally, there's some very key jobs. Case managers, records people are critical, but you got to have food staff. I mean, without the food staff, we wouldn't. So it takes a whole group, but the job is security. And so I would say,
good afternoon, everybody.
Officers,
Bobby
security,
Cleveland here, Executive Director.
That's not to diminish if you don't have a whole kitchen supervisor, but the job is security. And so I would say,
good afternoon, everybody.
Anybody
Cleveland here, Executive Director.
It's not to diminish if you don't have a whole kitchen supervisor, but the job is security. And so I would say, and that's
everybody.
Anybody agencies, but everybody's not just you don't have a whole kitchen supervisor, but the job is security. So I would say, and that's
everybody.
Everybody's not just you don't have a whole weather supervisor, but the job is security. So I would say, and that's everybody. Everybody's not just you don't have a whole weather supervisor, but the job is security. So I would say, and that's everybody. Everybody's not just you don't have a whole weather supervisor, but the job is security. So I would say, and that's everybody. Everybody's not just you don't have a whole weather supervisor, but the job is security. So I would say, and that's everybody. Everybody's not just you don't have a whole weather supervisor, but the job is security. So I would say, and that's everybody. Everybody's not just you don't have a whole weather supervisor, but the job is security. So I would say, and that's everybody. Everybody's not just you don't have a whole weather supervisor, but the job is security. So I would say, and that's everybody. Everybody's not just you don't have a whole weather supervisor, but the job is security. So I would say, and that's everybody. The government, would do that. But instead, what we've seen are people like Harpe who know absolutely nothing. And if he was a businessman and he'd come over and made this run better, I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? I was willing to give him a chance. I worked 6 months trying to keep my mouth shut to see what he could do. But the problem was he got rid of the people that knew the job, and he brought in all these people, and then he started giving himself and all these people pay raises while doing nothing to get more help, which is what we needed. We are short-handed. We're in a crisis down there on boots on the ground. And instead, what has he done? He's increased more government. He's made more cronyism. He's increased the pays on these people. Again, people who don't know anything. Anybody that's going to back him, and he gets rid of people who ain't. And again, I understand that, what he's doing. But he just, when you want to talk about a disaster, this guy's been a disaster, in my opinion. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion, Bob. But again,
first people he cuts is overtime. Cuts the officers for overtime.
Well, Bob, I was told that he's now looking at cutting the nurses on overtime, and so I'm getting told that he's looking at cutting overtime. And Bob, as we discussed, I think we discussed this last 2 weeks, is that I believe that overtime was given earmarked for just overtime. And I don't think that he can cut that overtime and legally, but he does a lot of things that ain't legal. So that don't seem to bother him. And then he just turns around and, Bob, while we're on this, I got to just stop for just 1 minute. They came and said that they've explained to me numerous times on how the director got his raise. Now, they put that out the other day. we've explained to JJ numerous times how he got. Here's the deal, Bob. They've never, Kay Thompson has never talked to me, not one time, about Director Harpe's race. Director Harpe has never talked to me. Only time Director Harpe has even addressed me on his raise is when we were in the budget meeting, and I said, Director Harpe, I've been told that you had your salary over at OMES, and that when you came to the Department of Correction, you just transferred that salary over. That's where that increased income comes from. And he said, yes, it's on tape. He said, yes. And again, I knew he couldn't do that. That's not legal. So then they come back and said, okay, that's what happened. All right, it's not legal. So your explanation wasn't legal. So now you come and said, we've explained numerous times to JJ about the race. And yet they have it. What they said is not legal. I've asked him to give the legal explanation and provide the documents to show it. They have never addressed that. And now I got a deal a while ago saying that they said he never got a raise. Bob, I mean, this guy changes. You know what I'm saying? And how would you say that when you've had this open argument running for the last how long? And you done commented on that how many times that you did get a raise, and now you're going to come back, we didn't get a raise. I would love to hear, hey, Director, I know you watch this. Hey, well, could you put out more explanation on how you did not get a $90,000 raise? Could you send me something in writing so that I'd have something in writing just to document what are you saying today? What's your story today? Can you put your story today on paper and send it to me, please? I would love to have it. And I think everybody else would like an explanation.
Now, explain again, what did you get today?
Hey, I got a text from somebody that said that he was saying that they never got a pay raise. Let me look and see if I can find that, Bob.
Then he said before he had got the pay raise.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. Maybe this person who texted me didn't know what they were talking about. But it comes from, I got a screenshot. It says the Oklahoma Department of Corrections. What happened, they had a person, you remember when he went down to Joseph Harpe and took all those pictures? I'm going to all these prisons all the time. That's another big whopper. But he said, I'm going to these prisons all the time. Let me get some pictures out here. And so a person put on one of their Facebook, I guess, with the 90,000 pay raise, you should be going there more often. And DOC, Oklahoma Department of Corrections, shot back. He never received a 90,000 pay raise. He tries to visit different facilities every week. Now, that's what he's...
Well, he tries.
Well, I guess that it. Bob, you make a fine point right there. He probably is telling the truth there. He probably really tries. I bet
he's got to make them. He's got to get on that plane and get around and go around the country.
Well, it's pretty tough when you're out of state to go on those. When you're spending $30 plus $1,000, when you say you only spent $5, and now the news catches you. Oh, and by the way, Bob, that's not me reporting that. That's a news station reporting that. I might have been on there interviewed a little bit, but the news station's the one who done the double check and confirmed what I said. And so again, he got caught red-handed. He got caught in the middle of a big fat lie again, saying $5,000 was spent, 9 trips, and then guess what? Boom, we see all these trips. And again, some of them to ACA, and we don't even belong to ACA. I'm not a big fan of ACA, Bob, but what I would like to see is that we do an outside audit. I think we ought to be doing outside audits. They investigate themselves, whether it's being murder investigation. Bob, we just showed that, how they try to cover up a murder. They're saying, oh, no, bull. They try to cover up a murder, Bob. And again, I went back and looked at their stuff. You're going to do a write-up. You're going to do a write-up on a murder case. That's like giving a ticket for a murder case. Oh, well, we had somebody murdered out here. We're just going to start giving tickets because we don't want to do the work and we don't want to investigate a real murder. And we don't want to look into, was there other aspects into the murder? What was the guy doing here? Why was he put in that cell? What time was he put in that cell? I mean, that's what you would call a murder investigation. What do you want to bet they couldn't answer none of those questions? What do you want to bet they didn't even look at that kind of stuff? And so that's not a murder investigation. That's let's mop it up and let's get some paperwork in here and let's move on. And they got caught red-handed with the Bob. I don't know. I was told that they're no longer putting out the discharge dates. I haven't looked at that. I'm going to be pretty interested to see, are they putting out those discharge dates? If they took those discharge dates down, I'm going to be just like, wow. But I just got called right before we went on saying that, so I'll have to go back and confirm that. But, those have been on there since the beginning of time. And, I just can't believe they would do that. So, but that's just more of the same stuff, Bob.
Well, he's cutting the COs. He cut them first. I mean, it kind of shows you there what he thinks about our correctional officers. Pretty big black and white.
Well, Bob, the deal is, again, when I go back to what we're seeing America want, they're sick of this kind of stuff. They're sick of what bureaucrats, and again, Bob, they talk about the deep state. We hear deep state, deep state, deep state. People, I don't think, really understand. I think they are coming to understand more and more what the deep state looks like, what it is. But guess what, Bob, you've got, deeper lakes, and some lakes are really, really deep. Others aren't quite as deep. So Washington would be the deep, deep state, where Oklahoma would just have a deep state. But we do have a deep state that operates. And again, I was in hope that Governor Stitt would come in and break that up. And what we've seen is, again, appointment after appointment be a nightmare. One of the biggest things biggest disappointments in our governor, and I supported him both times. I got him a lot of votes in our area. I mean, when I say supported, I got out there, got him votes, Bob, I mean, multiple hundreds. I'm not going to say I got him 1,000 votes, but I'm going to say I got him a bunch. And for him, the picks that he's made, Justin Brown over at DHS was a disaster. He's had a disaster with his tourism people. Both of them have had big time problems. He's got a problem with OMMA right now, bigger problem than I think he's going to realize. He's got a problem with his pick on DHS right now. That's going to be another scandal. You hide and watch. I'll bet you $1,000 you're going to see that being scandalized before very long if we get these grand juries. And then I would say the biggest nightmare of them all, the biggest, worst one, because again, if you want to go back to swaddlings, guess who's right in the middle of it? If you want to go back into COVID money, guess who's right in the middle of it? If you want to go back and destroying the merit protection system, guess who's right in the middle of it? If you want to talk about the day work or work day, whatever, nightmare payout, guess who's right in the middle of it? And if you want to talk about being moved to the Department of Corrections and what has happened since he has been moved to the Department of Corrections is just unbelievable. If you'd have told me it could get to where he's at, I'd have just almost argued with you. Nobody could be that bad, but I would have lost that argument, because I'll guarantee you he has proven that he's the Joe Biden of the Department of Corrections. This guy, I don't know that there's ever been a worse director in my knowledge of. And I can go back to directors before I even started, but I go back 35 years, Bob. So I go back a little ways.
Well, I was just wondering about who is what department within the Department of Corrections is that you really need, you really have to have. You can't do without them.
Well,
be correctional officers, be nurses,
caseworkers. That's the job. But we do we both agree, without a food supervisor or without the case managers or without the records people, those are the people. The maintenance people, those people are critical. Everything's got to run in there. Now, the warden, yes, he's critical. And at that level, I'd say those are critical jobs. But anything above that, guess what? It's just fat. That's fact. And yes, you're going to need some coordination, and you're going to need a director, and you're going to need some assistants, and you're going to need payroll and HR and all of those things. No question that those have to be there. But I can tell you this, in today's what we have, if they would purchase and quit hiring their brother-in-law or letting one of these goofballs come up with some program software that they spend millions. I've shown them, hey, I can come up with much, much better programs and for a fraction of the money, and have programs that we could have sold to other states to pay for the program we got. They ain't got it. You know what I'm saying? They don't get it. They work right there in their own little group. They make deals to make money or get some favor or whatever they do. But I can guarantee you, the last big I can't even think what they call their computer program now. But I took some computer guys with me, and I had them. I said, let's go down here. And I said, I'll bet you $1,000. I bet a piece of my anatomy, but I'll just say $1,000. But anyways, we go in there, and I told them, I said, first thing, I said, first rattle out of the box, I'm going to ask them about closeouts. And I said, I'll guarantee you they don't have any program ought to be able to do its own closeout. You're putting things in there, Bob. You're putting how many people you have. The computer ought to tell you how many clients you got. We go in there. I said, hey, how do you do a closeout under this system? Guess what? The guy goes, well, you have to get out of here and you have to go over here, and here's the closeout form. And I said, well, how many you had to put how many probation you have? Yep. I said, how do you get that? And he goes, well, I had to count them. I said, you physically have to go to your file and count how many probation cases, how many pros. Do you have to go over and count how many women, how many? See, that all stuff ought to populate. You ought to have a program. Today is the 21st century. You ought to be able to do that. Guess what? They paid millions and millions of dollars for a program that can't even do something simple like that. We're not talking about mechanical thinking or all the AI stuff anymore. We're talking about simple stuff that they didn't even get in these programs. Now, they may have got it by now, but it's insane. And that's the same thing whether we're talking about food, them ordering food, canteen, the whole 9 yards. Bob, it's just a mess. And then when we're talking about, Bob, it's just like, you know, they said when we hit this last week, but I don't know if everybody got this, but, you know, when we're talking about correctional officers, and this is what I'm talking about. This is the scam that he pulls. So if you went back 2019, you had 1,736 officers, what they claimed. Okay. If you go back and you start pulling, you get, I think they went down to somewhere around 13 and went back up to 15 is what they ought to have. Right now they got 12 something. If any of these numbers are true, you can't depend on anything they put out there, but if they are true. So now you're down here to 15 and they say, we got an 80% retention rate. Only deal is they're down 200 or 300 for what they even claim. They just knocked off. They said, well, we're not using those. And that's what they call efficiency. Well, we didn't need those because we're operating without those. Yeah, but you're operating with a bunch of rapes, extortion, dope, dying. You know what I'm saying? You're not successful. You are not successful.
Well, we had more inmates die or murdered than I can ever remember.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Bob, here's the deal. You got a guy who thinks he's a businessman. And he may be, I don't know. Maybe he was successful in business. I can only tell you what I've seen him. He's been a nightmare. No matter where they put him in government, he's been a nightmare. Okay. So, but let's say he is a businessman and that he's looking at slashing and cutting and all of that. That's fine. The only deal is if you're Walmart or you're Costco or one of these, your product won't get off the shelf and go kill somebody. Your product won't go over there and rape somebody or extort somebody or bring dope in and people OD or put dope in people's food to get them hooked on it so they can extort it. You don't have a product that gets up and moves around and does all that and does gang banging and all of those kind of things, or can riot and cause much destruction, tear your prison up, causing destruction. You don't have that. So again, you can go and say, well, we can cut 400 employees, and then we can claim, look, we had 80% retention because we don't have these no more. It ain't, otherwise they would show we have about a 20% probably. I don't know what it'd be, but that's why they get that good number, is because they just say these jobs don't exist anymore. We cut all these jobs. We don't need them. Well, that's a lie. That's not true. You do need them, because if you don't have them, you have the situation you have right now, which is a nightmare. I don't even know that he's, I don't say he's not intelligent. He is intelligent, Bob. You don't ever hear me calling him stupid or a dummy. Now, you do hear me call him narcissist, full of himself. You hear me saying those things, and you do hear me saying he's a liar. He is a liar. That's for fact. But again, he moves these numbers down, and he calls that business. But at the end of the day, what's going on? And are you lying about your retention? Cutting jobs is not retention. That is not retention. That is cutting cost. And if you want to say, look at how many jobs we cut, guess what? Okay, but then be honest. We cut a bunch of jobs, and what is our outcome? Now, if you cut jobs and have a better outcome, the deal is, Bob, he's cutting on the wrong side. It's like what you said. He's cutting on the wrong side. He's cutting the crucial jobs, and he's padding those thick bureaucrat. And again, they were supposed to be the other way around. If you looked at Justin Brown when he came in DHS, you know what he did, Bob?
What did he do?
He cut all the offices. If you'll go back and look, they closed, buku of those offices out in rural areas. They just closed them. And they sent people home. They cut a lot of positions. And guess what? You got people working from home that ain't doing, it's a nightmare. They're not getting the job done. They're not covering their offices. You've closed all the offices. People can't get to. So why have them? If they're not going to do the job, why have them? If you're going to do prison the way he's doing it, my gosh, just put a daggum big fence around them, throw them in there and say, y'all kill each other. Here's the deal. We'll throw y'all some food. Y'all fight over it. Here's some knives. Y'all kill each other. That's pretty much the prison system you got right now, Bob.
So would you say that all this cut, all these percentages are doing so good? Rapes are down, murders down, everything's all this down, that they've done so well because Harp's been there. Are you saying that's not true?
Bob, I talked to a guy today and asked him about, kind of explained, if they cut 400 jobs, do you think that's job retention? He goes, that ain't retention. That's firing people. That's getting rid of the jobs. Yes. If you put on a camera, if you put on a body cam, do you think that would reduce rapes?
No.
How would that even, who makes such a silly statement? Who makes these statements? And again, the governor come out the other day. We've recidivism. Now I'm going to assume he's getting that number from our Department of Corrections. Recidivism is down. Now I want our listeners and the public to know. And again, he may be telling the truth if he can show me the numbers. But here's what I'm saying. They give you all of this information without anything to back it up. How did you come to that number, Governor? How did you come to it? Because here's what I know. I know that we instituted a little deal called McGirt that you know very well. You fought the tribes over McGirt like nobody's business. And I'm in agreement with half the things here on McGirt. I'm not totally, I will tell you, I've talked to the tribes. They're not weren't totally happy. I think they're trying to make it work. But at the end of the day, McGirt is here. McGirt exists. How many cases did that take off of our felony dockets in the state? Well, you got to go back and look because they've never looked at these numbers. You got to go back and look at every tribe, their new court, what they're doing. And guess what? It'll be thousands. It'll be, if you looked at the Choctaws, Chickasaws, Creeks, the Cherokees, you're going to talk about thousands. Each one of those have at least 2,000 to 3,000, probably more. I'm going to be conservative and say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 to 10,000. But if you went and looked at 780, how many of those cases has that pulled off that are no longer felonies, that are now misdemeanors? What about legalizing marijuana? How many have that pulled off of us? So we're talking about, in the time period that he's been up there, thousands and thousands of people being pulled off the felony docket. Now, what's happening to our prison population?
Going up.
It's going up pretty dramatically, Bob. It went up during his period of time, somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000, I think closer to 5. But we'd have to check my numbers. I won't be right. Let's go back and check. I'm just saying, I'm giving you a little deal that we ought to go back and look at. Let's see whether I'm right or wrong. Guess what? If you pull off thousands and thousands of people off of your docket, and you are still going up on your prison population, I hate to break it to you, recidivism is not down. Something ain't G-hawing. Something ain't quite right.
Well, they're saying PREA or rapes are down. And I talked to an officer the other day, and he says that he would say that they have one or one. It's just he hears about them all the time at his facility. As many as 3 a week, but yet he says PREA is down.
Yeah, Bob, you hear me talking about escapes all the time. That they changed to walkaways. I saw 2 or 3 this week where they were escaped and they called them walkaways. Well, guess what? It'll be interesting to see what kind of, our escapes were down almost 50%. 50%. Yeah, they are, because you renamed them and called them walkaways. As you write up murders and give them a violation report and then don't say, nope, we didn't have no murder, nothing to see here, y'all keep walking. Y'all keep walking, that was just a little write-up. Oh, no rape here, no rape here. We just got one on video. Oh, we just know that one happened down there at Lexington after we tell all this. And again, we have them, we're reporting them all the time. I called them the other day. Hey, they're out there raping a guy, selling him on the yard. And again, nothing here. Don't tie up a guy. I call them, hey, you got a guy that was tied up for 12 hours and gang rape for 12 hours. Obviously, you're not doing your count very well. And then I get told not happening. Well, then I do a little checking on my own. And again, Bob, it's hard to investigate when they don't give you any information and you don't get to get in there and get to talk to anybody. So I just got to do it kind of, hook and crook, kind of just, talking to people, talking to inmates, talking to family members and all that kind of stuff, talking to whistleblowers who give me information on the side.
Hey, JJ, ask you a question. I'm hearing that they are not allowing the lawyers for inmates. They're not allowing the lawyers inside the prison anymore.
Bob, they're going to say that's a lie, but it's not a lie. What is happening, it's getting more and more difficult. I got lawyers. I've got a group of lawyers fixing to meet with me over that very fact because they can't get in to talk to their people. 2, if they do something and win something, it's retaliation against the inmate. So if they did something wrong to the inmate and they win, well, guess what? That inmate may end up in Hinton, or may end up on a yard, or may end up losing, property or something like that. There's all kinds of ways to get to them. And again, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing, other day we had a case where
they say they don't retaliate.
Yeah, Bob, they never retaliated against you or me, have they? They've never tried to close us down, tried to go after us politically, tried to keep me from getting records. I laugh at them, Bob. They think that, I guess they think they've beaten me, and what they don't even know is they're in quicksand and don't even know it yet. And again, it's very frustrating that you have to go through, the political bullshit that we have to go through to get correctness and to win. But Bob, they just accepted 6 cases on the shower incident. And they know it, and I know it, and everybody else knows it's happened. They even admitted they just made up that they tell a lie, and they
They said they wouldn't doing it, but we're not going to do it anymore.
Well, yeah, but here's the deal, Bob. We were moving people. Now you're going to move somebody, and you're going to keep them in a 2x2 cell for 3 days waiting. What? I mean, is there such a, you have to put in for a room, and there's a popular room, and I guess you have a 3-day waiting period while you wait in a 2x2 cell to get that room. I didn't know there were such great rooms at Hotel Hinton, but anyways, so the deal is they admitted to doing it, but they think everybody believes their lies because nobody calls them. What are you going to do? You can't get the governor to do anything. You can't get the speaker to do anything. You can't get the AG to do anything. So they can sit up there and tell whatever they want, and then, oh, JJ was wrong because the attorney general didn't do anything. Well, guess what? The attorney general's done a couple of good things. I'll give him credit when he does something, but I'll give him credit when he doesn't do something. And again, I can tell you, he has already come out and said he don't want to hold these agencies accountable. He said that to what I was told. He said that. Now, again, there's going to come a time where he's going to stand up there and he's going to get in court and he's going to try to tell them big, fat, nasty lies. And there's going to be somebody standing there going, that ain't true. And here's why it's not true. And if you keep telling that, you're going to get charged with perjury. And he needs to be smart enough to know that when you lock people up like that for punishment, which you did, and you withhold food and you withhold bathrooms and you withhold water, that's called a human rights violation of which you can be incarcerated on yourself. And again, that's what he's fixing to find out because that's what's going to federal court. They've already accepted 6 cases on that one issue. Again, we're working on the rape cases. He thinks that's all gone. No, we're going to have those rape cases. And Director, when you're gone, you can still be brought back and held accountable for the time that you were over this and you knew it was going on and you did absolutely nothing. You're going to try to say, oh, I didn't know it. That was below me. I guarantee you I've done a very good job of documenting you and documenting why it's going to land on your lap, not other. I don't care to see people below you punished. I care to see you punished. Although if an officer done stuff like that, there needs to be some accountability. There's no excuse. You're professional. You don't do stuff like that. If you're doing stuff like that, stop, write it up, put an incident report. If you're locking people in cages for 4 days and leaving them outside, I don't care if they're the worst person. I don't care if they cussed you. I don't care what. Your job is to make sure that person is treated humanely and is safe. If you do your job, if you need to take them down, if you need to take them out of a cell, if that means you had to pepper spray them or wrestle them, you do it, but you do it professionally. And under this guy, they've lost everything. I think
he's denying the rights of an inmate to speak to his attorney. Something about that doesn't sound right.
Well, Bob, they've tried to cut it off. I mean, just like the other day when I exposed them on this kid that got killed, they come back, oh, JJ has no knowledge of records. Now, that's a person saying that probably ain't never figured up a discharge date, has never kept records. I kept records for 20 years. I was the guy who wrote the discharge date. So I sent records when this guy discharged. I had courts calling me. How do we sentence this person? Give me a report on how to do all this. Can you tell me? Guess what? I mean, I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. I do know a little bit. And
they like to criticize you and to make people believe you don't know anything.
Oh, it tickles me that you got a person who never figured a discharge date. I'd be shocked if they knew how to figure discharge date. And they're going to say, well, JJ has limited knowledge. JJ has no knowledge. JJ has no experience. Yeah, and that person's got zero experience saying that. And
Right.
again, Bob, here's the deal. They just go back in and like I'm being told today, well, that's the problem. So let's just erase it. Let's just not even report that. SIRs are getting out of hand. So let's just quit giving them to anybody. Let's just hold them back. You know, we just won't report it.
Let's get drugs. Let's just don't count those anymore.
Oh, no. We do. I'll tell you how you're successful. Just don't tell nobody. We're not going to tell anybody. And anybody tries to come get records, we're not going to give it to them. I'll tell you.
That country that allows drugs, doesn't keep track of drugs. Trying to think of who it is. Where that girl and Frank kept that diary. Anyway, they legalized drugs.
Yeah.
And I heard the guy talking from that country talking about how they have controlled the drug problem in their country. They don't have a drug problem now.
Yeah, because it's not a problem.
Right. It's legalized.
Hey, do you know what, Bob? I can guarantee you I can drop the murder rate in Oklahoma City. I mean, dramatically, significantly, down to zero. I can drop the murder rate. If they would hire me to drop their murder rate, I can drop it to zero. Because guess what? We just stop investigating. Stop investigating, and we no longer have a murder issue. And that sounds insane. When I said that the first time, I had somebody go, JJ, I'm going, it's insane, ain't it? It's insane. But guess what? That's exactly what's going on in the Department of Corrections. We reduce, we have retention 80%. You know why? Because we just did away with all those that we couldn't retain. Those 300 that we couldn't retain. Yeah, you know what, Bob? Here's what's funny on that. You know a little prison called Allen Gamble?
Yep.
When did we get that prison? Can you remember when we got that?
No.
It's roughly about 2 years ago, I think.
2 or 3 years.
I think it's about 2, but September, if I remember. The reason I'm recalling is because I found it humorous that on the day they were dedicating it to the officer who got stabbed, Joe Allen Gamble, you know, that they had a big stabbing going on while they were dedicating. You remember that? The officer. In fact, I think you went to that and they wouldn't let you in, wasn't it?
Well, they first they wouldn't. They didn't want to, but they did.
They did let you in?
Yeah, it was the guy who come out and talked to me was very professional and very nice. Told me I come in.
But they did have a stabbing that day.
They had stabbing that day. I mean, we had a
officer stabbing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So,
hey, what happened to the officer, to the inmate that got stabbed just the other day? Or did he ever die? Or
last I was told is he lived. I think he lived, from what I've been told. I haven't, Bob. It's really, really tough for me. Boy, they are just getting to where people are scared to tell anything because they know that, hey, if he thinks that they talk to me, man, he'll fire them for just looking my way. And again, that just shows you who he is. You know, he's scared. He rules by intimidation, threat, and he can't rule any other way. He has no other way. And so, again, it makes it a little difficult for me to find stuff out. I still find out quite a bit. Fortunately, everybody hates him. You know, that's a big deal. Now, he likes to name drop. I heard the other day he was really mad at me and you for exposing him on the travel deal, and that he went out and did a little video explaining his travel deal. I'd love to see that and catch him, because there's no way his spin is a lie. The only way he's got to spin it is a lie. He's like one of them kids. He tells a lie, and then you catch him in a lie. So he tells another lie to get out of that lie, and then he just has to keep lying. And again, I guess he never learned that as a child. But the thing about it is, Bob, is that he's going around, you know, trying to cover up all the stuff that he's doing, and he's getting out on that video telling that he didn't do all that. And he's making it really tough for me to get this information, but I'm still getting information. People mad, just like exposed him on his little video deal. So I'm still getting it, but it's just a little tougher to get. So finding out all of these murders. But one of the things I'm doing, I'm going looking at the medical examiner. I mean, here's the thing: he can't cover all. There's ways to get it. You just can't get the reports. But again, Bob, we're going to get down to where the records. He can't. Just like if he tries to cover this discharge dates up, guess what? Those discharge dates are for families. Those discharge dates are for victims, so that victims know when people are going to get out, so that they can keep that. That's been there forever. Some of the stuff like the SIRs were there forever. Now he's covering up the employee reports. He covers them up. Bob, what? With him, I guess it's just if he don't like a number, just cover it up or tell a big lie, and just do away with that. If there's a bunch of escapes, change the name of them to walkaways. We can fix that. Now we just had some walkaways. Don't report the walkaways, just report how many escapes we saved.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's insane, Bob. I'm just there's got to be a time that somebody holds him accountable. And I guess the only way we're ever going to get there, obviously the governor is not going to look at the real stuff. It's pretty apparent the AG is not going to look at the real stuff. I've come on and talked about how Harpe says that he reached an agreement with our house. Now, again, I hope that's not true, but we'll find out. I can promise you, Steve, Mr. Harpe, Director Harpe, I can promise you, you're going to be answering on that one. You just get ready. You're going to be answering on whether you lied on that or who it was that was. And I suspect you may have had a meeting. I suspect there's way more went on in that meeting about me. But I'll bet you $1,000 you end up lying about it. I'll be shocked if you'll tell the truth on that one and say, yes, we did have a meeting and what actually come out of that meeting. Because I figure what you're going to do is try to cover your butt and you're going to go, oh, I lied. I lied. I just, because he's not going to want to throw the house under the bus. But either way, and I hope the House didn't do it. I hope that our leadership in the House did not sit down with him and make agreements to violate Open Records Act, to withhold public information from me and from the public. I hope that our House surely did. I expect that out of him, but I do not expect it out of our House members.
Well, I was told, I'm not saying it's true or not true. I just tell you what I'm told, that on his all call, he kind of went off on the media and said, don't believe anything you hear or read in the paper about DOC's budget or about their money problems. Something along those lines.
Well, then put it out, Mr. Harpe. You want me to tell you how to fix your problems? Put it out. Be transparent. If there's no budget problems, put your budget out. But how many people you actually have out? Let us go confirm it. Let us go confirm all your numbers. That's the way you shut this stuff down. That's why they try to make me out to be an idiot. They try to make me out to be, a scoundrel and a liar. But guess what? The problem is, Bob, is like the other day when I showed up with this murder they covered up. I didn't show up, hey, y'all believe me. No. Hey, let me put this up here and let y'all see this right here. Let me put this up on the board. I had a PowerPoint. Let me show you where he came in. Let me show you what he was arrested for. Let me show you the J&S and what it says. Now, let me show you their records and show you when they said he was going to get out. Now, let me show you the emails that they were sent. They don't deny that they sent the family some emails. What they said was, well, that was a third-party contractor, I think, through Canteen. Okay. Well, I went back and checked the third-party contractor. Here's what's funny. If you check them, they're about 4 days behind. And from best I can find out, because, again, you can't deal with nobody, but best I can find out, if you get moved, they're about 4 days behind. So if you move from one prison to the other one, normally in about 4 days, this group is going to contact your family and say, hey, he's been moved, or this inmate's being moved here. Now, that's what I understanding, So I don't have that verified. That's my understanding. because I'm trying to check, and it's hard to verify people, as we said, that don't give you anything. So anyways, the family got notified on 9/13 that this inmate had been moved. Now, here's the question. Does this third party work for DOC? Yes, they're subcontracted to DOC. How does this third party get the information to email this family, of which I know the family got because I got the 2 emails?
Right.
How does this family can get emails from the third party working for DOC, but DOC can't get any information to the family? The third party can, but DOC can't. So is DOC that incompetent and the third party just more competent? What's the deal? But the group working for them was able to get a hold of them. They got the 2 emails. Then again, when the family gets hold of them and say, what happened? Well, he died the 17th. Why would they lie about the date that he was killed? And here's what's funny. The family give me the name of the person who said that. And guess what? That person was involved in this whole deal. And so again, it makes them way more credible. It makes the family look more credible. So can I prove that person told them the 17th? I don't know that I can prove that, but I can prove that they were able to give me the name of the person who is the person who they talked to. It was the name. And they said everything else they've said had been 100% true and documented. I have no reason to not believe them. And again, then if you go look at all the paperwork, how DOC keeps changing, what they change, it's wow. And them to do the stuff that they're doing, they got caught. They got caught red-handed. Bob, I'm working on another one right now where it appears the guy, we can't, it's like the bed, he's supposed to be there, but I'm talking to all these inmates and I'm like, where's this guy at? I'm looking for this guy. Where's this guy at? Well, he's housed here, but he ain't never here. He ain't never been here. And now it's like, I just got something on where he's at that I've never seen in my life. And I started calling around and said, what does this mean when it says this right here? I don't know. I ain't talked to nobody yet that knows. I'm like, wow, I worked 35 years around this stuff, 20 years for Department of Corrections, calling people who work like that. Ain't found one person that can tell me what this means or where this inmate's at. And again, Bob, that's supposed
to. They got an inmate. They don't know where he's at.
Well, here's what's funny, Bob. It's supposed to be public information where inmates, you know what I'm saying? You ought to be able to find where an inmate is located. You ought to be. So, for instance, if you want to see whether if an inmate maybe raped your family member and you want to see where he's at, make sure he's there, you need to be able to pull that up, and it's supposed to tell you. You're supposed to be able to track all that. Guess what? No. And again, what we're saying is that a chairman of corrections cannot find out anything on this inmate. It's insane. It's insane what we're seeing. And again, Bob, what's funny right now, they have just they won't even respond. Now, I haven't talked to LaToya. So I've quit talking to them quite a while ago because they hate my guts. And that's okay. I understand if you go on there and call the director a liar, which you are. But I understand why he'd hate my guts for saying that. I understand why he'd hate my guts for exposing him lying about his travel. I understand why he'd hate my guts exposing him for his raise and all the rapes and all the deaths and all those shower incidents, all the things that we have exposed, the extortions. I get him. I mean, I get why he's mad, but my assistant ain't done nothing to you. And my assistant gets 50,000 calls on DOC a day, and she's trying to take care of that. And now they won't even respond to her, which is hilarious. So you're going to be an unelected bureaucrat, and you're going to decide I'm not going to respond because my feelings are hurt, and I'm not going to let
I think it's fair to say that you don't like somebody, but you still have to work with that person. You still have to give them information. They're not made to like you, or you like them. But you still have your job to do, and you have to do your job, and whether you like the person or not. If you do it, you ought to be able to handle that. Now, if you can't handle that, you're not mature enough to even be in the job.
Well, and here's the thing, Bob. I mean, how many people at the Capitol didn't like you or didn't like me? And we had, I had a chairman. I've got a chairman right now who I laugh. Me and him go back and forth all the time. And I was standing beside him the other day. I was like, it's been a little while ago, but I was sitting there. He come over and stood by me. I think he's just jacking with me. But I told him, I looked over. He's standing beside me and messed with me. And I turned around and said, you know what? There ain't nothing I like about you. Everything that you do, I disagree with. But I want to tell you something. I do respect the fact that you got more backbone than probably anybody in this room. And he does. I mean, I'll tell you, the guy's got backbone. And he laughed. He goes, JJ, I just said the same thing about you. He said, I just got through saying the same thing. So we don't agree on nothing. We don't necessarily, I don't dislike him, but I mean, we just don't agree and we're at war all the time. But at the same time, I can find some things about him I like. I can stand there and talk to him. We kid around, we joke around all the time. We fight each other. He kills every bill I ever give. I mean, every bill I've ever had in his committee has been killed. Every bill. And I've had lots of bills. I probably had 17 or 18, I was counting one time, that he's killed of my bills. And again, I can visit. I mean, if he came in today, if he come down to Toka, I'd sit down and have coffee with him. You know what I'm saying? I'd even pay for his meal. I don't hate him. I disagree with him. And if he gets a chance to hook me, he's going to hook me. He's like that mean old bull. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He's going to hook you. You just stay out of his way. And again, that's why I feel, on Harp, I don't have any use for Harp. But if I got to work with him, I can work with him. I can say hi to him. I can say, if he don't want to say hi to me, my feelings aren't hurt. Because I will tell you, Bob, there's few people that you will hear me come out and be as hard on as I have the director. There are very few people, but here's where I'm at. His arrogance, his lies are costing people lives. He's getting people killed. He's getting people raped. He's getting people extorted. This man, because he's arrogant and wants to play some rich kid, come in and take a little job and, I'm Mr. Big and I'm this. And he has not a clue what he's doing. And then he wants to lie about, look how great a job I'm doing. And again, he's covering up all the fatalities, all the rapes, all the shower incidents, all the stabbings, all the assaults on staff, all of that kind of stuff. He's not reporting it. And again, he's I would say he's already got a lot of people killed. I would attribute a lot of deaths to Mr. Harper.
Well, the way he runs it, there's no question about it. It's pathetic. I've said this before. I'm pretty old, but I've never met anybody that's like this. I just never have been around anybody that's like this.
Well, Bob, again, it's just I can't say that I've never met people. I've dealt with a lot of people as probation pro officer that share some of the same characteristics that I see in him. But at the end of the day, they can say, I'm sure they do say I'm rude, I'm crude, I'm ignorant, whatever they want to say. I'm fine with that. What they say, Kennedy Cleveland. Bob, you got to tell her to wait. But I'm fine with whatever they say about me or you. They talk about you about as much as, in fact, I try to get them to talk about you more than they talk about me. But the thing about it is, Bob, I'm willing to put my character and my achievements and what I do up against them, and to say, when I say stuff on here, Bob, I'll either say that's what I think. If I say we can prove something, we can prove it. If I say, even when we have a lot of verification, Bob, I usually come out and say, this is what we allege. This is what we're reporting. This is what we're saying. But most of the stuff we have, I can tell you we've documented. And when I say that they violated the Open Records Act, I believe I can document that pretty good.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we're going to have to shut her down, but I appreciate you. And I'll get with you next week. I guess you're going to be here.
I'm planning on being here, and we didn't even start to report the incidents that we had this week. So I think what we're reporting on is bigger than the incidents, Bob. He's covering up, he's lying, and it's time that, and I want to encourage everybody to join OCP. It's time you guys out there in the field stand up and take your place back. And if you don't, you're going to be living under this guy's thumb. So time y'all stand up, join OCP. Let's get this thing straightened out. Let's get, it's time we start reporting. You can call one of us anonymously and we'll take care of it. Call us and tell us what's going on in a way that we can verify it, please.
Well, thank you. And thanks for being here today. And we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Catch you later. Bye-bye.